proposed zoning ordinance and zoning map for the city of Metropolis. I'm Al Stroutmeyer, Zoning Commission Chairman, and I would like to ask the panel members and other Zoning Commission members to introduce themselves, starting with Clyde Wills.
Clyde Wills.
Rick Abel.
I'm Gene Norber, President of Economic Development Resources and consultant for the city.
Chad Murray, I'm Zoning Administrator, City of Metropolis.
And the commission members will just have to use their loud voices, starting with Mr. Souders.
I'm Mike Souders.
Mark Thompson.
Art Long.
Bob Lingle.
Don Harper.
Jim Young.
Thank you. The objective of this evening's meeting is to receive oral comments concerning the proposed zoning ordinance and zoning map. We'll begin with Gene Norber of Economic Development Resources, who will provide comments to address common concerns that we've heard and are aware of already. We will then provide opportunities for your comments at the lectern. We will document your comments and consider them in preparation of the final ordinance draft. Are there any questions regarding the objective of this meeting or its process? Very good. Gene, please give us your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As the chairman said, this evening is an opportunity for both citizens of the city of Metropolis, as well as those who reside in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, that area within 1 1/2 miles of the exterior border of the city, to comment on the proposed zoning ordinance. I think it's important that there has been really an overwhelming response to the notice that the city has provided, and certainly we welcome your input as consultants to your city. And since this is an opportunity for both citizens and residents of the extraterritorial jurisdiction to make their comments and concerns known, I do want to address in particular this idea of extraterritorial jurisdiction and some of the comments that the Plan Commission has received already. The first, and again, these are all addressed at the outset to the extraterritorial jurisdiction. The first question: the adoption of this zoning ordinance will automatically annex the extraterritorial jurisdiction into the city of Metropolis. That is not correct. Zoning in and of itself does not annex anything. Annexation is a process. It is well established in the city, and zoning in and of itself does not annex any property into the city of Metropolis. Item 2, a second concern, is that the adoption of the extraterritorial jurisdiction zoning will allow the city to tax the owners of property. That is, to provide or to levy a property tax on property owners within the extraterritorial jurisdiction. That is not correct. The city levies property tax only on those properties inside the municipal boundary of the city of Metropolis.
Charging the fees or taxes.
Number 4, the next one, the assignment of a zoning district category to property.
We'll take comments at the proper time.
The assignment of a zoning district category to property in the extraterritorial jurisdiction will affect how it is taxed. Property is not taxed based on its zoning classification. Property is taxed on the use generally. Property can also be taxed on the income it produces. Property can be taxed potentially on the replacement cost of buildings. Zoning does not tax property, use, income, or replacement costs. There is a concern that owners of property in the extraterritorial area will have no recourse with respect to zoning decisions. The zoning ordinance itself provides in Article 3, if you have the document, for an entire board to listen to appeals of zoning matters, and all of those appeals and their processes are outlined in one entire article in the document, and that's Article 9. There are numerous opportunities to appeal any decision made with regard to the zoning of property. Then there is a concern that the zoning ordinance will keep county residents from such things, and the items that have been identified to us: burning trash, riding ATVs, use of firearms. The word firearms, or shooting firearms, or discharging firearms does not appear in the zoning ordinance. Riding ATVs does not appear in the zoning ordinance. Burning trash does not appear in the zoning ordinance. There are issues that have to do with the containment of trash, nothing about burning trash.
James, next year.
Those are the issues that have been brought to our attention. I did want to address them because I do know that there are many people here who reside in the extraterritorial jurisdiction. We wanted to address those comments that we have heard already up front before proceeding to the public comment portion. Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. In regarding procedure, we very much want to hear everyone's comments. We want a good, effective zoning ordinance in place for our community. But I will ask that everyone keep their comments until your turn at the lectern so that we can have a productive collection of information and take your feedback and consider it as we review the current zoning ordinance draft. We're now ready for questions from the audience. If you have a question, please come to the lectern. We'll ask you to state your name and address. And again, the purpose of this meeting is for us to hear your feedback. If we hear a very straightforward matter that we feel like we can effectively and efficiently address, we'll do so. But the primary purpose of the meeting is for you to give us your comments so that we can be aware of them as we further develop the zoning ordinance. Yes.
Good evening, my name is Jeff Crippen. Good evening, my name is Jeff Crippen. I live at 3074 Lakeview Drive. And you want to impose this zoning ordinance on us. I'm in the extraterritorial jurisdiction, by the way. But my feeling is you want to impose this zoning ordinance on us. On the zoning board, if you do this, are you going to have any representation from someone that doesn't live in the city? That's one question. For an example, the people that, you know, like you say, you file an appeal or to have a hearing if there's a problem, is anybody going to be on that board that lives in the extraterritorial jurisdiction? That's my question.
Thank you for your comment. Rick, I do think it's a good idea just to talk about the legal standing of ETJs so that everyone understands the established nature of this matter. Wireless technology would be nice for that. All right, there we go.
Stand up, we can see you.
I think what Alan's referring to, and maybe back to where Mr. Crippen came from, the ETJ is established by state law, by the Illinois legislature. It's been there since 1961, at least. It's been upheld by the courts since the 50s. Zoning itself's been upheld by the courts since the 20s. It can extend up to 1.5 miles from the city's borders. Now, Mr. Crippen asked, we have a zoning board of appeals. The statute also spells out how the zoning board of appeals is comprised. It's an appointment by the mayor. I'm not, and to be frank, we've never had someone appointed from outside of the city. I'm not saying that it couldn't occur. We simply have to follow what again, most of this is governed by state law, not city ordinance. The ETJ is not a city ordinance. The ETJ is a state law. The ETJ, the zoning board of appeals, is set by state law and governed by state law. It's not governed by the city. But It's certainly, I mean, if state law allows it, we can certainly look at it and the board can make a recommendation to do it. I don't think there's any real heartburn with it. It's just whatever the state law allows, the state statute. The city only has the authority that's granted by the state statute.
Thank you. Next question. Or, I'm sorry, comment.
This is in, my name's Brian Howell, I live on North Avenue. I'm also the.
Yeah, it's not working.
Test, one.
Probably just a comment a bit. In regards to that question or comment that was made about the board, in the zoning regulations, Article 3, Section 2, clearly states membership, appointment, organization, and compensation. The Zoning Board of Appeals shall consist of 7 members, all of whom shall maintain residence and reside within the city. Each board member shall be appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of the city council. Therefore, my interpretation of this zoning regulation is that the zoning will affect the area with no representation from anyone living in that area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, and we'll consider that as we evaluate the draft. Thank you. Next comment, please.
Can you all hear me outside? Jeff Weber, 3038 North Avenue, Metropolis, Illinois. I'm an elected county official here, county commissioner, and I'm going to give you the opportunity probably to make this one of the shortest meetings that you may ever attend. If the Zoning Board of Appeals would please redraw your map and possibly just stay inside the city limits that are currently, there, your boundaries, and perhaps take care of the business inside the city limits, and let the people outside the city limits take care of their business. I think that'd be a good idea.
Thank you for your comment. Yes.
Dave Bushclaw. After I heard about this, I called Mr. Midnight, and he told me that a lot of cities have this extraterritorial zone, and I asked him what cities, and he said he's going to get back to me. Could you, anybody tell me what other cities, South Carbondale, have this? Anybody know any other cities?
Metropolis does. Metropolis already has it.
They already do, but any other cities besides?
Any city in the state of Illinois can have it.
But do they?
I assume they have.
Well, again, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to hear your comments.
Why are Metropolis the only one?
I will say I don't have a list in front of me, but from memory, I believe Charleston, Champaign, O'Fallon. There are other cities, and ETJs. Again, the purpose of tonight is to hear your comments, but I will provide that ETJs are common.
Most people here against this. I feel is if y'all want to go through with this, we might just boycott Metropolis. Paducah's not that far away.
We appreciate your feedback. Thank you. Another instance where we need wireless technology. Next comment, please. Yes. I'll get
Chris Cromeans, 3021 Beavers Road, Metropolis. My question is a little different from the other ones in that the adult entertainment is being regulated to industrial park areas. I believe there's maybe 3 different areas on the map that are included in the industrial park categories, venues. And I was want to know if there might be a way, if we're going to regulate to industrial parks, if you could have maybe a new type of industrial park and an old type, so it's not basically going out to the interstate area next to the Shawnee College if a strip joint wants to come in.
Thank you for your comment. We will record that and consider it in the draft review. Thank you. Yes.
My name's Julian Adams, they call me Book.
Microphone up.
I live at 1903 Macquarie, and I have one question. In this zoning, you put this all in zoning and everything, and if a business starts coming through that area, are you going to have the power for eminent domain?
There's no power outside of the city of eminent domain. City has no power outside of its own boundaries in eminent domain. No, sir. So putting it ETJ and putting zoning there has no, the two are totally different. There's no eminent domain outside the city. Not the county could, but not the city.
Okay.
Thank you. Next comment, please. Yes.
My name is David Krim, live at 10 Bullock Lane. Why are you doing it? Why do you want to change it?
Well, again, the purpose of tonight's meeting is to hear your comments.
Why?
I will offer that our current zoning ordinance dates back to 1964. A lot has changed since then. The purpose of zoning is to encourage productive development, and that's what we hope to accomplish with a new zoning ordinance.
The gentleman just up here. If somebody wants to move out on, let's say 10 Bullock Lane, you know, are you going to tell us that it's for the betterment of the city? If they want to take over 10 Bullock Lane, people don't usually do something without a plan. I just want to know what your plan is.
Our plan is outlined in the document that was posted online and available at City Hall.
So you're not going to tell me.
It's all in plain view.
Mr. Grimm, just say, let me try to answer that, if that's all right. You live in a residential subdivision.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Bullock Lane is a residential subdivision. At the present time, there's nothing, say your neighbor's house burned down, there's nothing to keep, perhaps, some kind of business or industry from locating right next to you, okay? If zoning was imposed, that can remain a residential subdivision where we don't have, the Pink Pony doesn't locate next to you, or the junkyard doesn't locate next to you. I mean, there'll be a place for those things, but it won't be right next to your house. So when you say the purpose is to protect the integrity and the property values of the existing properties as they are right now. Under the current situation, there's nothing the city or the county could do to keep that from happening, because there's nothing that, I mean, anything could go right next to you. Anything could go on the property that's next to yours. If there's no subdivision restrictions themselves, anything could go on the property that adjoins your property that's not subject to your subdivision restrictions. So the idea is protect the property values and the integrity of your property. That's it, plain and simple.
Next comment, please.
Jeff Crippen again, you brought up another question, Rick. I live in a subdivision with covenants. Okay, these covenants we have may be more restrictive than the city's zoning, for an example. Okay, who rules what?
Yours are the more restrictive.
I'm sorry, the more restrictive with control, okay?
What bothers me is that you want to put a zoning regulation in where on my 2.5 acres, if I want to put a garage, I'm going to have to go to the city and pay $250 or $300 for a permit, right?
Now you pay 3 cents per square foot,
Or if I put a 1,000-foot house up, right? I mean, it's gonna cost a couple.
$30.
Huh?
1,000 square foot's $30.
What if I'm denied that?
Didn't, if you were, can't imagine why you would be, but if you were denied that, then you go through the appeal process.
Right, and there's not a
Ultimately,
person on the
and
appeal
then-
board
and then-
that is up here.
okay, and let me finish. And then beyond the appeal board, there's a right to go to the court system as well, okay, and have that overturned or have it looked at.
But the court system costs a ton of money for someone to do that.
Regardless, where they live, it costs the same amount. Now, if there's a, if the county's charging a fee and the city's charging a fee, and that may be some of the issue here, then that's certainly something this body, the zoning commission that's sitting around you, could take a look at. Maybe they shouldn't charge 2 fees. Maybe there ought to be just 1 fee.
If I recall 4 or 5 years ago, the county redid some ordinances, like we've got to have a permit to put a structure on our property. Okay, and I can't remember whether there was a fee involved, maybe $50 or whatever, maybe it's free, right? But the county doesn't impose that on city residents, and the city's in the county.
That's by state law, Jeff. I don't get to change that. That's by state law. That's the state dictates where the county can act, and the state dictates where the city can
I
act.
know, it's a city wanting to impose something on us from the county, and the county's not reciprocating.
If the county wanted to adopt zoning, the city wouldn't act at all. So if the county wanted to protect your property values, the county could do this, and the city wouldn't have any authority to
But my
protect.
point is, I don't want the city to protect me. I'm not in the city.
The city,
We do appreciate that feedback, understand your concern, and again, to be clear, 3 cents per square foot, not looking for a revenue source from permitting or fees. Just trying to update a zoning ordinance to reflect modern technology and current times. Next comment, please. Yes.
My name is Jimmy Burnham, 17 Mount Mission Road. Now, I heard,
Closer to the microphone, please.
Jimmy Burnham, I heard you just tell somebody that you're going to protect them from opening a business next door to them. I was born in this town, lived here all my life. My dad bought a place. He built a shop in his backyard. He made a big business out of it. Brought a lot of revenue. You're saying that we can't do that now when you take over, right? You just said to him that you were going to protect the neighbors from opening a business next door to them. It's my property. If I wanted to open a business, why do I have to have your permission to do it?
Thank you for your comment. Next, please. Yes.
Yes, my name is Curtis Collins. I live at 941 Country Club Road.
Get the microphone, Larkin.
My name is Curtis Collins. I live at 941 Country Club Road. Due to the city ordinances that they already have, a storage impound lot cannot be within city limits. How is that going to affect when you redo this zoning and incorporate part of my business into a city limit where I cannot do it because of an ordinance?
We have your information. We'll look at that in relation to the zoning ordinance.
Because the lot itself has been there over 10 years. And it bothers me. Are you guys going to throw me off my own property from having a business?
No, the answer is no. Sir, the answer is no. If your use is in conflict with the zoning, but your use predates zoning.
So you're saying it'll be grandfathered in and the city can't regulate that on
It's-
their city ordinance?
It's a non-conforming use and not, it's called, just in the law, it's called a non-conforming use. And that non-conforming use, which predates the zoning, is permitted to stay. Yes, sir.
Okay, because the city made it quite clear that you cannot have an impound lot in their towing ordinance in this city 4 years ago. And that is part of the regulation of the contract you have to sign every year to be on a city tow list.
Let me answer that a little bit too. There are lots of ordinances that the city adopts. They're not all zoning, okay? Nor does zoning control those things. That's when they talked about open burning earlier, you know, county doesn't have a burning ordinance, city does. Those only apply in the city limits themselves, okay? They're not part of this zoning ordinance. They don't get changed because the zoning ordinance gets adopted, okay? What you're talking about is the towing ordinance. And if you're going to tow for the city, these are the conditions that you have to abide by, okay? That won't be changed just because the zoning ordinance changed. No, sir, that doesn't happen, okay?
Thank you. Next comment, please.
Jeff Crippen again. To revisit Mr. Weber's question, on redrawing the map, why did you pick 1.5 miles and why didn't you pick something sensible like 1,000 feet?
Thank you for your comment.
Is there going to be an answer to it?
No.
We appreciate your feedback. I appreciate the crowd. I understand the concern. I assure you, we will go over all of these comments and take them into consideration as we further evaluate the draft, the zoning commission. Next comment, please. Yes.
This is on what Kirk was talking about. We have two ordinances now,
Name and
2008.
address again, please. We just want to make sure we have good notes.
I'm Julian Adams. They call me Butch. The ordinance 2008-24 and 2008-25. One of these ordinances pertains to the citizens having a car in their property with no license, and they're fast on going and getting those cars after they give them a 30-day warning. But we have a salvage yard right in the middle of the city, and we have cars sitting there that's been there for 5 years. We got a liquid fertilizer truck's been sitting there going on 6 years with no license. And, but they're going to put this is part of 16 ways of evading problems, management training. Also, in Modelnetics, study of Modelnetics, they pass it on to a board, and then they keep it going month to month. Well, this is a health issue also, and I think they need to be more apt. If they're going to do it to the citizens, they need to do it to everybody. But that's what's been happening for years. It depends on who you are.
Thank you for your comment. Next comment, please. Yes.
My name is Kenneth Jacobs, and I live at 1207 West 10th, Metropolis. I've got a couple of questions. You're wanting to annex more land into the city ordinances, have I got that correct? Okay, so you're wanting to go 1.5 miles from the city limits now. You're wanting to have control over that.
That would be part of the ETJ.
Yes, okay. How far out are you talking about going?
It's demonstrated on the map.
Well, there's a bunch on that map that's that's farther than 1.5 miles out. I mean, where does the city limits, okay, compared to Country Club Road, Are you talking about going past Country Club Road on the other side? On the farmland? Are you talking about going out to the cemetery?
It's fully shown on the map. I'm not following.
Well, I just wanted you to give me a ballpark, because not everybody here can run up and look at it.
The red line on the map is literally the mile and a half. I mean, if you take the irregular shape that is the city of Metropolis boundary that we work with, we created a buffer of 1.5 miles, 1.5 miles around. So the red line is the more precise. As far as notifications for this meeting and sending out notifications and the effectiveness of the zoning in that mile and a half, we had to make a determination as when that red line crossed through a parcel, part of the parcel or all of the parcel, and we just decided to say that if it touched part of your land, you needed to know about this. So we figured that we would use that as the effectiveness for the mailing for this. As to whether or not we'll make a determination that part of a parcel is in or part of a parcel is out, or if it needs to be just the whole parcel is in, then those parcels would be actually the ones that would be zoned. We've had that discussion before, and we'll continue to have that discussion as far as how we go about managing those partial parcels out there in that area. The red line on the map is one. Go ahead.
I live in Florence. I live at 799 Mount Mission.
Right.
And this, the line is right there.
Right on.
Now, my property run, I've got over 50-some acres that way.
Sure.
Am I affected at all in this? My house is right there on the corner of Mount Mission and Country Club Road.
And his question is, he's literally got a house that appears to be sitting smack dab on the line.
I understand your question. We'll certainly get back to you on that. I don't know that we have the details in front of us to do so now. No, we'll take your name and address, and we'll address your concern. And we want to work with you to get your feedback, to get answered. That's a very good question. We want to work with you to answer that.
Me and my wife was 20 years. And the whole reason we done it, we have kids, they all want it. They hunt, we enjoy it, we have chickens. It's our little, as corny as it may sound, it's our little eating. We don't want nobody messing with it. We want chickens, I want to build a chicken coop, I want to keep goats. I just don't want nobody park around with us. I pay my taxes every year, I've had it for over 20 years. Blood, sweat, and tears to earn that, pay that off. And I don't want nobody messing with it. That's all there is to it. I don't want nobody jacking around telling me I can't put a chicken coop up.
Well, certainly in your position where you're on the fringe, I understand you're wanting clarity on that. And let's get your name and address, and I want to make sure we record your question and get back with you.
Is it okay to finish now?
Yes.
Okay, it was mentioned a while ago about ATVs and guns and burning and such as that. If the city does take this in, that mile and a half, at a later date, if they decide, okay, we know you got your little self a little 40, 50 acre farm out there, but can they later on say, okay, but your kids aren't going to be riding around on your farm anymore? They don't know, we don't want ATVs, or you've put up a little rifle range out there and you don't want to shoot your 22 rifles or whatever, they're going to say, no, you can't.
That's what we were talking about earlier. That's not a function of zoning, so no, we can't do that. In town, we could tell you where you could put a rifle range, okay, in the city limits, but not outside the city limits, no.
Okay, well, if you bring this in, what I'm saying is if you bring this in to where you have control over what goes on, stuff like that, is that what you'll be effective?
No, that's still not a function of zoning. That's not one of the powers, if you will, that's given to the city for zoning. You can't make rules about ATVs outside the city, okay? You can't make rules about shooting guns outside the city. It's a different set of powers, if you will, and the city doesn't have it.
That has nothing to do with that mile and a half.
It has nothing to do with the mile and a half.
Right.
Annexation has nothing to do with the mile and a half. It's totally different. And just to reassure you, we went back, we looked at everything the city's done in the last 30 years. The city has never done anything but what's called a voluntary annexation, okay? By that means is the citizen has to come to the city and actually ask the city, will you annex me, okay? They've never done any other kind of annexation. Can't imagine why they would. it just doesn't make sense. But that's all they've ever done. So zoning has nothing to do with annexation, and zoning has nothing to do with ATVs or shooting guns or anything like that. And the city has no power to do that out there, okay, in that ETJ.
Another question here. I know the city has gotten this controlled burning, and not controlled, I'm sorry, no burning in the city limits anymore. Is there any way possible that we could have 1 week out of the year, or 2 weeks out of the year, that the city chooses the time, like to do the city cleanup, where people can? Because if you go through town, since they've made these ordinances the way they've made them, our ditches and things are plumb full of leaves. If people could just have 1 weekend a year, just like they have the city cleanup a couple times a year, where we're allowed to burn just on certain days, and it's got to be permitted as long as it's not a real windy day or something like that, and the city announces, okay, we're going to have the fire department on hand, and go ahead and burn your leaves if you like.
Okay. Could we do it? We'd have to look at it. The reason they went to no open burning is state law changed, and state law mandated that every town bigger than 2,500 had to have a no burning ordinance. That's an EPA rule. We could always look at it. That's something you probably need to take up with Mr. Daugherty. He's our ordinance committee chairman. Want to bring it to a city committee? I'm sure they'd talk about it. But that's where that would probably need to go. And that zoning doesn't have anything to do with that either. And we don't. And it really is not governed by zoning at all. Okay.
Okay, in this meeting tonight, this is over the deal on trailers also here in Massac County, and there was something in the paper about trailers, or had to be newer trailers or something like that in certain areas of the town. Is tonight your zoning is going to affect, like if somebody wants to put a trailer in or something like that?
The zoning ordinance does address mobile homes, yes.
Okay, what about places that's already got mobile homes?
That's a non-conforming use that's allowed because it exists at the time of the new zoning ordinance.
Well, I've got two pieces of property, and one of them is just across the street here. When I bought this property, I researched it. I didn't do just like some people done. I researched it and got told, and I bought that property as a part of my retirement. And I've got 2 trailers over there. And I was told here about a year ago that if something happens to those trailers, oh well, I can't put another trailer back in. Well, let me finish.
You go ahead, and I'll try to address that.
Like I said, I've got two in over there. Now, when I bought that property, it was a commercial zone. Well, something's changed. I don't know just exactly what it is, but one of the reasons why I bought that property, I waited around for 15 years to find a piece of property like I wanted. We bought the house, and the only way that I'd buy the house is if I could buy them lots in behind. After I researched and found out I was doing this to supplement my wife's and my income when we get ready to retire. Well, I've even put commercial sewage in over there. It wasn't necessary, and I could have had something repaired. It was going to cost between $250 and $350, but it cost me $1,700. There was no utilities on that property. The property I'm talking about is on Corliss. Okay, I put utilities back there. But here about a year ago, I was told that once those trailers are gone, that I won't be allowed to put any more in. I want to see that that's not, if they're going to take this area and fix it that way where you cannot put a trailer in, I'd like that piece of property there to be left out of that mess, because like I said, I bought that piece of property for a particular reason, and I have an extra lot there, which at this time, I don't plan on putting another trailer in there because I don't want them jammed up. I got a lot in between the 2 that are there. But when I was putting those in, my neighbors were very happy. When I bought that property back there, all it was a big junk pile, and where people dumped off their blocks and cement, and it was Johnson grass up to your armpits. I cleaned all of it up. My neighbors are plenty happy with me. Now, we've got a new doctor's office in and a pharmacy right there by me. Now, I don't think they've got a problem with it, but they may have. But that stuff was there before they got there and was bought for a particular reason. All right? Out here on 45. And I can see the cities, I can see their view on this. I own Trails Inn Lounge and Billiards out there. I came here in 1976. I was going to stay 10 years. I've been here going on 36. I love this town. I bought my burial spots. I'm going to be buried in this town. I had a place on Girard Street. Well, my place got broke into out there, Trails Inn. So I took my trailer and I went and got a permit and I moved it out there behind Trails Inn. Been there going on 37 years. And as you all well know, from here to where the restaurant used to be, right now is Project Hope. Every one of these places have been broken into umpteen times. After I got there and put a system in where I could hear everything going on in my business, somebody popped a door one night. When I was going to Girard Street, I got broken into once. I moved out there. Somebody popped a door one night and I could hear it. I got the police to get out there, but they got away. All right, all these places keep getting broken into, and Project Hope's been broken into several times. When I was a restaurant, right next to me, broken into several times. But I had security at my place. And right now that I've moved away, I've been away from it for about 20 years, I still got that there, and I want to keep that there. Because I have people, when I get people, I find the right ones to live there. I pay their utilities for them. They pay me very low rent. I haven't got that there for a reason. No, I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah. Exactly. No, you have a very specific, understandable question that I think will be best addressed by Chad Murray.
Okay. Now, about 6 weeks ago, maybe 3 months ago, somebody tried to break into the Last Stop Tavern down here. They messed his door and everything up. They got to my place and they broke the package window while I was trying to get in. Well, lo and behold, because I had somebody living there in the back of the place, and you can check the police reports, they were aware what happened and they called the police. Now, if those people if I hadn't had somebody there, my place would have been broken into and destroyed or stolen from and everything. It's worked. It worked when I lived there, and it's worked now that I got somebody else living there, and the whole reason of having that there is for security on my place. If that place burns or something goes bad with it, I want to be able to put another place in there for security. I don't care if I got to let somebody live there free. It also helps my insurance stay down lower having people living there on that property.
I understand your question. It's a very specific question that relates to where you fall on the zoning map, and I ask that you take it up with the zoning administrator after this meeting.
No.
Thank you. Okay. Next comment, please.
Linda Souders, 6819 Unionville Road. The question is, you all sitting up here on the panel, and you're expecting these parents, these people that own property, they have kids, they have grandkids, and they're asking for answers, and you all are just verifying the questions. Is anybody out here, which I know there's probably 100 people here, that would like to ask questions, but they're not getting the answers?
The purpose of tonight's meeting is to get this feedback. We're recording everything that you're providing, and we are going to consider this as we further work on the document. The document, any meetings we have related to the further development of this document are open, so those can be attended, and you can see how the work progresses as we factor in these comments and consider how to move forward.
Who put this zoning ordinance? Who wrote the zoning ordinance? Was it the council?
There are a number of people involved from the Zoning Commission and EDR.
Could I ask exactly where it came from?
Where the document?
Yes.
The document came from our work with the members of the its official name is the Zoning Commission, with members of the Zoning Commission over the past couple of years.
And it's located where?
Pardon me?
Where is it located?
Where is what located?
The zoning commission.
The Zoning Commission is a standing commission of the City of Metropolis.
This is really an offspring of the Bartholomew, whatever your name was, from 1965. That's when the zoning, whatever, was created. This here was created to improve because of some changes.
Okay. In order to improve, though, you're going out of your bounds, actually, out of the boundaries of a mile and a half on a lot of that. I mean, I can sit here and look at the red line around there, but one part goes almost to Brookport.
By law, we can't go beyond a mile and a half. If the map reflects that, it's incorrect.
I mean, it does reflect that, sir.
Then that's something, we appreciate your feedback. We'll look at that. If it's not drawn up correctly, that's obviously something we have to correct. And that's the kind of feedback we want. If there is an error like that in place, that's exactly what we want to hear and understand. Nobody's saying the document's final. Nobody's saying it's done. This is part of the process to review and make sure that the document is accurate and serves all of the people affected as best as it can. So, again, we have your name, we have your address, we have your comment. We'll review it, make sure that the map is technically accurate, and if not, we'll make the necessary revisions.
I understand that. If by chance, though, the city does zone the rest of the property into Metropolis, you've got thousands of people that live in the county and pay taxes, but you expect them to go along with the city of Metropolis's rules. Is that correct?
Zoning within the ETJ, not the City of Metropolis.
Well, that's just big words that you want to put out there. I mean, you've got a committee that you deal with, but you've got everybody that's on the committee lives in the city of Metropolis. You have no one in the county that is going to be on this committee, correct?
I don't know that that final decision's been made.
Read the statute.
We have your comment. I do appreciate it. Thank you. Next, please.
A couple of things that I'd like to try to clear up a little bit, since we can't get any answers, we can only comment. I do have a copy of the zoning ordinance that you all are trying to put through, and it clearly states, as I read before, that no one is allowed on the board from the county. And I gave you that information.
I understand. This is a draft document.
Okay, I'm just explaining. That's per your requirements right there. Right, okay.
And it's
So
draft
that
form.
answered her question. As of right now, as it stands, no one in the county can be on that board.
If this is not a final document. And
But
again,
as it stands currently, in its current form, no one in the county can be on that board.
if your reading of that
My
section
reading
is
is
correct,
correct, 'cause I have it in front of me. Okay.
yes,
I'm
but
not-
again, I want to make clear, I want to make sure everybody understands this. Nobody's saying this is a final document that stands exactly as it is. This is an important part of the process where we get feedback from anyone who was affected by the new zoning ordinance. So I don't want to convey that this language is fixed, can't change, and is final.
I understand that. I'm just saying that in the current section, that's the way it's written, that's the way it stands as of right now, unless any changes are made, depending on how the committee votes. Fee schedule. Let's discuss that a little bit. Okay? That's going to be section 3 for your zone. Okay? The people that live in the, you said ETF, I believe? Was that
ETJ.
ETJ area. Currently, all that area is considered agricultural, as written
Yes,
currently.
it's part of the A district, I
Okay,
believe.
current. Everything I'm discussing is in current version that you all have presented to us at this point. Okay. Not only do those county residents would be required to pay the county fees that are assessed, but then would have additional fees that would be imposed to them by the city. For example, the zoning verification letter, which is $50, which is a new fee for them, would be a new fee for them. A appeal for the zoning board If they rule that you could not build your property in a certain way that you want to, and you have to appeal that to the board, that costs you $150. If you want to appeal it to the city council, then that's going to cost you $200, which is a fee. If you want a variance, which I'm assuming most people live in the county that don't abide by this zoning ordinance at current would be required to purchase a variance. Am I understanding that correctly? Needless to say, that variance fee would cost you $250, okay? If you want to have a special use permit, it's going to cost you $125. For a site plan review, it's going to cost you an additional $125. If you want to put a sign on your property, it's going to cost you $25. If you want to run a business out of your home that you currently live in, it's going to cost you a $10 fee annually just to conduct business out of the home that you presently live in. If you have a unplanned or planned unit development that's less than 2 acres, it's going to cost you $200. If it's 2 acres to 15 acres, it's going to cost you $300. If it's 16 to 25, it's going to cost you $400. If it's 25 or more, it's going to cost you $500. Now, in my view, I cannot see how this is not a money grabber. These are all fees that the people that live in the county currently are not required to pay for that. Now, in regards to the red line, I'm assuming from what I've looked at on the map, what you've taken, for example, the line that goes across Highway 45. I'm assuming that you've taken the farthest area of the city limit boundary at that point, gone from there 1.5 miles, and as if you've gone back into geometry class in high school, what you've done is you've calculated the distance, taken a protractor, and drawn a circle. That's why it looks in such strange, like a cloud on there. So you're saying that, for example, the 1.5 miles outside of the city limits for the Highway 45 would go almost out to Cook Coal Terminal's entrance, then would swing back in and pick up Country Club Road at the corner of Airport Road and Country Club Road, then would swing out even further than that, all the way out to North Avenue, which would go almost to where the church burned on the corner, would swing back in, swing back out, all the way back out towards Brookport to almost where they built the new nursery on Highway 45, and then would swing down and come down to the river. So it's a very large area. Now, according to the census that you all submitted to in 2010, the county population is currently roughly 15,400 people, okay? With a population in the city, give or take, 6,700 people, okay? You take that population in the city and just guesstimate the number of people that live in that county area, which there's a number of subdivisions and farms in there, you could guesstimate that's probably roughly 7,700 people total. I'm just shooting that number out. I don't know that for sure. Okay, if you take that 7,700 people and you figure everybody, I'm just saying worst case scenario, everybody that would have to pay a variance because their property that they currently own is not in accordance with the zoning as written currently, that would bring in a total revenue of 1.9 additional millions of dollars. Okay? If you take that number of people times 250, I'm just saying worst case scenario, if every person had to buy a variance for that.
Right.
Nobody buys a variance. What's the variance listed for?
That's if you come in and request a variance. It's if you came in and requested a variance because you're going to do a new building, new structure, your existing property, you don't need a variance for.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It does not read that way.
Well,
it
that's
reads
not.
If it's destroyed or damaged, any new construction on your property, if the building is destroyed or damaged, if over 50% of that building is damaged, then you are required to resort to the new zoning regulations.
Yes, but if it's a variance is such where you want to build too close to a setback, you want to build too higher than what your particular district allows, one of those exceeds. Not everybody, I don't know where you came up with 1.9 or 1.2 million or 1. Anything million.
Well, it's simple math. You take 7,700 people times 250. Like I said, that's the worst, listen to me, worst case scenario. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying with all of these fees, there's a number of fees that are going to be imposed on the people who live in the county that currently are not having those fees imposed on them at this time. And that is the only comment that I had on this.
So, Rick, is it accurate to say that in instances such as this, if you had all of those properties sustain 50% or more damage, and the owners of those properties rebuilt to address that damage, then this would apply. But if you did not have 50% damage or something else requiring a variance fee, what we're hearing described would not apply.
Actually, I'm going to release the podium so somebody else can come up here that would like to speak. But I'll be happy to, I've got the zoning ordinance here in front of me, and I'll be happy to look it up, and I can give you the section, article, and line numbers.
We're looking at it right now. And I'm looking at variances. Our understanding was that variance fees are only charged if someone was denied a variance and chooses to appeal, then there is an appeal fee.
You get it on the website.
You don't buy variances. We've never sold variances. We don't tend to sell variances now. Nobody's ever bought a variance in the city of Metropolis or outside the city. We don't sell variances. Okay?
Why is it in the zoning report?
Just as I explained to you, if you came in and asked Mr. Murray for a variance and he said no, and you said, well, I want to seek relief from whether it's the zoning board of appeals or whoever, then you would have to pay a fee to seek a relief and somebody else to hear your case why you should be given that variance. We do that now. They still do that. But you don't have to pay a fee to get a variance. We never have. It's not in here either. You're misreading the ordinance.
What am I misreading? It's a whole list of fees right there. And right there it clearly states, variance, $250.
We're saying it doesn't apply, but thank you for your comment. We will look and make sure that the language is clear and there's not confusion about how the fee could be applied. Thank you. Next question.
My name is Logan Libby. I know most of these people here, they know me. I have been a resident here since 1958. Love the people, love the town. And from what I've been keeping score, I think the nays are way outnumbering the yays. I can understand why you're trying to push this kind of stuff on people when it isn't wanted. Your intention may be the best thing in the world, but I've always been told the road to hell is paved with the good intentions. I don't know Mr. Weber. Tonight's first night I guess I saw him, but I wholeheartedly agree with what he said a while ago. That the city take care of the city business and the county take care of their county business. Thank you.
Thank you. Next comment, please.
My name's Quentin Hillebrand. I've lived here 69 years. I've lived where I've lived at right now 37 years. I live between Allied Chemical and Cook Coal Terminal. We got a little triangle in there with a nice little neighborhood. We don't have no strip joints. We don't have no taverns. We got a country place. I got horses, dogs, and cats. And some lovely little kids. Now, reversing what Mr. Howe said, the fee schedule. For this chapter 12, section 12, for this chapter, the following non-refundable fee schedule is adopted. Such fee shall be paid by the applicant at the time the applicant is submitted and filed, except no fee shall be required for applications for the administration zoning board of appeals, the city council, or the planning commission. But everybody else gets this fee. And like he said, $50 zoning fee. Appeal board, $150. Appeal to the council, $200. Variances, $250. Zoning district amendments, $150. Zoning text amendments, $100. Special use permits, $125. Site plan views, $125. Sign permits, $25. That comes to $1,175 if we want to build on our property. Anything new. I mean, I like existing stuff. Now, read on down through here. Preliminary plans, unit development. If you got less than 2 acres, it's going to cost you $200. If you got 16 acres or 25 acres, it's going to cost you $400. If you got 25 acres or more, it's going to cost you $500 for this. Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you what, I've been around a long time, and I've had a lot of deals with a lot of salesmen wanting to sell you something. You get the foot in the door, and then you go back in the door, and you're sitting on your couch selling you some books that you don't want. Well, I don't want your books. I don't want your zoning. I'm happy where I'm at, and I wish you would leave together.
Thank you. Next comment, please.
My name is Larry Lunsford. I lived in where I live for 50-some years. I got a small farm, Airport Road, got a few horses, and I didn't want to live in the city. That's why I moved out there, and I've been very comfortable for 50-some years, and I don't really need any more. I'm I'm past retirement age. I plan on selling my place. It's going to be passed down to my children, and I'm not too much concerned. I want to know what advantage this will be for me to have this ordinance, be zoned in the city with the city.
The purpose of the zoning ordinance is to direct development of the community for the benefit of people in the community and around the community. That's the goal. If it's not meeting that objective, that's why we want to have this feedback.
How's it going to affect me that lives out here? How's it going to be to my advantage?
We're defining the use of property so that everyone understands what acceptable and unacceptable property use is per the zoning ordinance.
In other words, they want to tell us how to use our property.
Thank you for your comment.
And they can't be anybody come in and build beside me because I've got houses on both sides of me, and I'm not worried about an industry coming in, and so it would be not to any of my advantage.
I understand your feedback. We'll look at the map and see if the current outline is the best, most effective use of the ETJ, or if there is something else that can be put together. That's why we're getting this feedback. We're not looking to introduce hardship. We're trying to put together a document that will serve the city in its development well.
Well, the city and the county has been in kind of a thing for years. When the county needed help, the city didn't want to help us. Now the city wants to take in.
No,
I don't understand.
No, I understand your concern, and we'll factor that into our decisions. Next comment, please.
Howdy. I'm Craig London of 1060 Country Club Road. I just recently built me a house outside of city limits because I wanted to live outside of city limits. Now you want to pass an ordinance that just going to pass a couple laws right now. How much longer do you intend to extend the city limits exactly? Because I'm sure this is just the start of it.
Yes.
There are no such plans in place that I'm aware of. This is a meeting about a zoning ordinance that applies to the city and to the ETJ, not about annexation.
Well, maybe I'd like to start a business in the future, and I figured I could if I built outside of city limits. Will I be able to start a business if this ordinance passes in my yard? 2 acres. I don't have any neighbors.
That would depend on the application of the zoning ordinance to your particular situation. Thank you.
Well, a lot of people want to make different decisions on how and where they want to live then, because I may have just stepped the wrong way. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, my name is David Herring. I live at 10 Stephen Lane, Metropolis. I'm on the outskirts of your boundaries here. I hear from you all sitting back here. I know Rick, I've known him for a while, but you guys use "we can do it." I'm looking at a map that takes in 2/3 more territory you have control over than city limits, basically. Okay? Your thing tells us we gotta pay fees. We have no say at all on who sits on this zoning board committee. We have the town telling us what to do, what they think we should do. We have no representation at all. We have county commissioners. They have to be elected. I know some of these people up here that set this zoning up. I know you have to start somewhere. But you have somebody that has a 60 to 80 by lot in town dictating to us what we can and what we can't do. And it's really upsetting to me is that you are charged fees for permission to use our ground. If you want us to register it, that ought to be part of the condition that the city wants to take it over. Not put an expense on me personally if I want to build a 40 by 20 garage out there. I can get a county permit. I have state laws regulating what I can do, electric. I don't need the city. That's one reason I don't live in the city. I was raised in the city. But we got this. I think you could work with the county commissioners. If you're going to appoint 5 people and you say they have to live in the city limits, if you're taking up 2/3 more area, then this area ought to at least be appointed by our county commissioners to be on this board before you finalize it. 10 people. That's the area you're talking about. We have concerns about how we want to use our property. And you're dictating. And Mr. Abel says, you can do it because of the law. It ain't always right. There's a little common sense that needs to be used in here. You say it isn't the intent. The intent says that ain't what your paper says. It shall be. If you want to change it, these guys got farms out here. You can change an ordinance. Well, that's not an ordinance. You can change the restrictions on the zoning. Hey, guys, you can't spray herbicides on your field. We're going to put that in the zoning. What do we have to protect us from it? Nothing. We got 5 people sitting in the city limits. Do you think that's fair? Do any one of you think that's fair? Now I want to ask that question. And these guys that started this up, I'm not going to say, I understand you guys got a problem in your town. But don't force us without some representation. If you want to put 5 in there, you're taking up 2/3 more area that you want to kind of keep in hand. Well, then give us 10 through the county, have our county commissioners work with you to finalize it. Give us some say. And I think that's fair. I think most people here are level-headed. And they want the best interest. And I'd say most of them could agree on it, could find a solution. But give us a chance to have say of the condition that happens around it. Because I'm going to tell you what, if poor old Butch is just living house down, he ain't got the problems I got out in the country. But what you're doing is, I have nobody to go to. And all good intent, trust me, I've been around long enough, all these good intent things are fine. But that ain't what it says. When you put this through, you got, no offense, but politics goes in this shit. Okay? Now, I'm gonna tell you what, just because good old Billy don't like this guy out in the county, I'm gonna squeeze his ass. Hey, you know why? Because I can do it. He won't take care of business in town. At least give us some recourse when the county commissioner has authority. I think that's a fair thing to offer us, before you even think about passing. Give our county commissioners a chance, to, if you want to do this, to appoint 10 people to go along with your 5. Because you're talking about that much more area, and that's fair.
Good comments. Thank you. Yes.
I'm not much of a speaker, but I've lived around in this county 68 years. And what I see with all these fees and things is a money grab and a land grab. That's what I see. I'll tell you my name. My name's Larry Howell, and I live out on North Avenue. But I don't understand, is anybody that lives in this acre, not acre, but a 1.5 mile area, ask you all to do this? They haven't, have they? Have they come to you and asked you to zone their area? I don't believe they have. You're within your legal rights. I've already checked it. You can do it. But does that make it right? Does all these people in here want this done?
No. No.
It's all the board. I don't think they do. Why don't you all take care of the city in the city limits? It needs a lot of work. Just drive around through the city. Just drive through the city. Come down 5th Street, like you're out of town and you're coming to the boat. What do you see? I dare say that 1.5 miles out in the county looks a heck of a lot better than what you see going down 5th Street. Yeah, you all are about 1.5 miles outside the city. Just like I said, I see a money grab. You think anybody that wants to move out of the city is going to build within 1.5 miles? No. Because you're all going to pass this. That's your goal. That's exactly what you're going to do. And there's not a thing we can do about it. The only way we could have done something about it if the county had done something. And then you'd had to have an agreement with them before you could have done it. The county don't have zoning, and that's how you're getting away with this. If they'd had a zoning form, you couldn't do what you're doing. You'd had to talk to the county commissioners. That's a fact. You're smart enough, you got a lawyer sitting up here, smart enough to know that he's checked the law. Don't think he hasn't. That you can get away with it without any problems. Carbondale done this, and I think it was the 1980s. And the people sued them. The people lost. Because this is a state law. It's on the state law books. It's on the books. 1.5 miles, you can do it. And you're going to do it. You're going to sit up here and say, well, we're going to check this and we're going to check that. You're not going to check nothing.
Thank you.
You're going to go ahead and do it and get the city alderman to pass it. That's exactly what you're going to do. Why don't you just be up front and say that's what you're going to do? Because that's exactly what you're going to do. I'm telling you right now, in front of everybody in here, that this is going to pass. You're not going to change one thing. I have no representation, and neither none of these other people that live 1.5 miles out of the city limits. No representation whatsoever. You can legally do it. But is it right? Is it morally right if the people in that area don't want it? If they want it, fine. I say take care of your business inside the city limits. And there's a lot of work you all need to do. More than you can handle. And why are you wanting all these fees you're wanting? None of that goes to the people who live in the, I know Metropolis is part of the county, but that goes to the city of Metropolis. All the fees. Is anybody on the zoning board that lives in that area? No. Because they don't have to be. And you know it. So you're just going to run shot over all of us that live out there. And you're going to cause a lot of hard feelings. You're going to cause a lot of trouble. There's a lot of people that live in those areas. A lot of people. And I wonder why they live in those areas. Because they don't want to live in the city. There's a reason I'm out there. I don't want to live in the city. If I wanted to live in the city, I'd live in the city. I saw more shams and everything else come the city's way and then lose money. I don't want them making decisions for me. And I say all these people in here don't want them making decisions for me. Your track record is sorry. I just hate to tell you. It is sorry. I'm through.
I appreciate your comments. I will say that I have never heard anyone that I've worked with on this matter treat this as a revenue source. That's certainly not my intention, nor is it my intention to move forward on this without considering all the feedback from this group tonight, as well as the meeting tomorrow. Next, yes.
My name is Robert Fick. I do not live in this area. I have property that is very near it, if it isn't included in the group. I hear you say that you're very interested in protecting my property's value, and I think that's a lie. And the reason I think that is that if I were going to buy some property and it was close to this area, I would vote to go outside of it. I wouldn't buy property within the red line. So you've already taken money away from me in regard to the value of my property. So I guess I'm assuming other people feel the same way. If people wanted to buy property, do you think they're going to want to buy within this area? No. They're going to want to buy outside of that area. So anybody who's living within it is going to have their property devalued. It's just the way it is. And you must know that. And apparently you don't care. I think the problem here is the city of Metropolis tries to do too much for a city the size that they are. Very often they fail. They hire too many people. You people are examples of that. People that don't need you. We don't need you. We're getting along fine without you. Just leave us alone.
Next comment, please.
Hi, my name is Ben Stratmeyer. I'm a CPA. I'm a farm landowner for his family. I live in Centralia, Illinois. I am the finance director and chief financial officer for the city of Salem, a city that's approximately 7,500 on a rural interstate in between two retail centers. Our family has been farming in this community for over 100 years. I have an ag interest. We have a family farm, and we're not selling. We have no intentions of selling. But this is bad public policy at best. Very bad public policy. To answer some of the questions that people have had, I can answer. The city of Metropolis has annexed a big section of Fort Massac. That is why they can zone close to Brookport. There is nothing that prevents the city of Metropolis of annexing all of I-24 to Johnson County that will give them the right to zone most of Massac County and up to Mermet Lake. There's nothing that prevents it. They say they have no plans. They have no plans this year. But I do know it has been discussed in the past. For those that are concerned that this is a money grab, let me be very frank. It is a money grab, period. When the government limits what I can do for income on my property, it limits the value of my property. From a personal standpoint, we're farmers and we're going to continue to farm. But for our neighbors, I have seen lots of people over the years farm, retire, and sell their farms off of retirement. This type of zoning hurts their value, it hurts their retirement. Will it raise taxes? Of course it will raise taxes. It will raise taxes indirectly. And somebody that says it will not raise taxes don't understand how taxes work. Governments levy property taxes for dollars. If the values go down, the rates go up. It's simple. No city that they identified. If you think about it, Champaign, Illinois with the University of Illinois, Charleston, Illinois with Eastern Illinois University, Carbondale with SIU, O'Fallon, Illinois with McHenry University, they would have you to believe that the city of Metropolis has the resources and the technical know-how that these communities have. And they don't. Having lived in Centralia, I am familiar with some of Mr. Norber's work over in Clinton County that he has done. Isn't that true? Carlisle? Have you done work in Carlisle? I will tell our citizens, we do not need Mr. Norber's help here. Yes, this is a form of taxation without representation. That's an old cliche. But coming from an ag background, I've read the ag zoning. It is obvious that people on this zoning committee were totally unprepared to address the zoning for agriculture. For example, is they have a building is limited to 6,000 square feet. For people that know our family and my dad, we have constructed on-farm buildings much larger than this nearly 40 years ago. 6,000 square foot is inadequate for today's small Southern Illinois, Massac County farmers, for many of them. There are other rules as far as zoning that they're afraid of: industrial agriculture, large corporate hog farms, but they don't tell us how many sows. They don't tell us how many boars. They don't tell us how many bulls, how many heifers, how many steers, because they don't know what industrial corporate farming is. I conclude, this is bad public policy at its best. It is a land grab. It is a money grab. It will lower the value of your property. And I think I know a little bit about something about ag and rural property. It will lower its value, period.
Next comment, please.
Go home.
Weber again, 3038 North Avenue, Massey County Commissioner. It has been said that the city of Metropolis has not annexed where it has not been invited to annex. I would entertain an answer as to who the representative was of the Illinois Department of Natural Resources that asked the city of Metropolis Council to annex Fort Massac State Park.
Yeah.
We don't have an answer for that. And again, I want people to understand, this meeting is about feedback. I hear what you're saying, and I want to understand your questions and get back with you. If we don't have an answer now, I'll tell you. When we do have an answer now, I will.
Quick question, when is the meeting gonna be held that we can actually get answers? That's public, that we
The
can.
purpose of tonight's meeting is feedback on the zoning ordinance.
But no answer.
We take this feedback and decide how to move forward on the document. As I stated earlier, all of the meetings are open regarding the development of the document. There's nothing that's secret, there's nothing that's done behind closed doors.
Are we gonna have a chance for you guys to decide that we gotta eat this, what you gonna do to us?
The meetings are going to be public.
Public? We gonna have another meeting to try to inform us before you enact it? Stupid, they can't do it? That's what I'd like to know. They can.
Why don't we vote on it?
Put it on the ballot. Put it on the ballot, we'll vote. Tell me what the law is, because you can do what you want to. Are you gonna have enough brass to have a meeting, like big boys, and try to tell us what you're gonna do to us, what you're gonna do to us, as far as we know, that is legal? And you're gonna do everything legal, but I'd still like to know what is going to happen to us before you vote on what you want.
The meetings regarding the development of this document will be public. They can be attended, they can be observed, and nothing will be done without your ability to view the work that's happening.
Is that what?
Right. We were just discussing the initial development of this document, the fact that pages and sections and processes are debated. This meeting is helpful in understanding your keen interest and better understanding how this affects you now and how it will affect you once it's actually in place. We've heard what you've said. I understand the interest. It's not been my intent or anyone that I've worked with to do anything that is not transparent, certainly not a money grab. And I do appreciate the intensity of the feedback this evening. And we will factor in all of your comments. Any meetings we have, again, will be open and can be observed. Yes, you were.
Question, please.
Yes.
Ms. Souders again. Is there any kind of grants?
Come up front, please.
Just a simple question. Is there any kind of grants that the city is getting in order for them to get the zoning in effect? Please. Now, is there any?
Not to my knowledge.
There's nothing that has been offered to the city of Metropolis in means of grants that you know of, right?
No.
Are you associated with Italy? May I ask that? Don't tell me you don't know what that is. I'll get back with you.
Thank you. Next question.
As a member of this board, I've been sitting here and I hear some comments made about members of the board. Our duty and obligation was to talk about it, going through a hearing, and then the recommendations that would be made would go to the city council. That's the final say, is the city council. In 1965, there was a zoning ordinance that was written up by the city of Metropolis, and this is just an extension of it, right? Just an extension. It's not anything that's been created the last 30 minutes. I'd like to say this, and then I'm leaving. It's a prime example of Massac County citizens sitting on your duff for the last 50 years and voting for the good old boys. Now we're down to here. You know, it was done not to hurt anybody. The city wants to expand. Sure, they want to expand, you know, but it's not anything that we, the committee, pre-planned. But it's been on the board. There is a Bartholomew, and these guys are just rewriting the plan. That's all.
Are you for it?
Am I for it?
Yes.
In a certain respect, and I do plan to resign from the board because I have problems with the city of Metropolis. I have problems with the creation of zoning ordinances, and down near my mom and dad's house, they just moved a trailer in, and it's 14 foot off the ground on 9th Street. Yeah, I have problems. I have problems with that. I don't have problems with trailers, but I have problems with not the laws not being enforced as they should.
Right. Where's that trailer at?
That's,
is it in a flood zone?
No, no. It's right in the neighborhood where Paula and I were
block east of her.
You know,
they want to get high without.
Yeah, we want to get high without.
But what happens is it does reduce, you know, your property value. It does. And property values in Massac County don't need to be reduced. Personally, you know, how do I feel about it? I understand what you all are saying. I understand.
We may come in and take your office because we live in the county. It's not allowed.
Hey, comments need to be at the lectern. This isn't.
I understand what you're saying because I don't want anybody coming in my neighborhood telling me what I can do and what I can't do. But when it really boils down to what's going on here is that you sat on your duff for the last 50 years and you voted for them good old boys, and now as one of the chickens are coming home to roost.
Who elected you? You were appointed. Nobody. So if you really got a vote.
But the chickens are coming home to roost.
Now these are country chickens, don't like your roost.
And what you're saying is ignorant to what I just got through saying.
No, you call our commissioners stupid.
Thank
What
you.
you're doing, they can't take care of business. I think you've been doing all right.
Paul Wills wants to make some comments.
Yes, go. Folks are ready in a boat because it's going to lower our taxes and it's raining. All the city ever done, make people move.
I would like to speak very briefly about this because this rezoning is something that's been going on for many years. And about 10 years I've been on the Plan Commission, and we've worked on this. And then, as mentioned, brought in the professionals to try to put it on paper. I think it's unfortunate tonight that much of what has been said is not based on fact. It's based on liars. you keep talking, some people have talked about all of these fees. Well, most people are never gonna have to pay any of those fees. You know, and a very interesting part of this is that I would say maybe 99% of this zoning ordinance has nothing to do with the 1.5 area. But, well, you're here to try to learn, and unfortunately, you're not getting as much information as you need.
You've been doing it around here, you didn't tell nobody about it?
We told people that it's been covered in the paper, and but all the meetings, as they said, have been open. We've had hearings on lots of things, and people have attended to voice their opinion, and just like we're continuing to do now. The idea of the 1.5 zoning is to protect people. It allows farmers, landowners, the people that are now to just continue doing exactly what they're doing with no fees. You can raise your cattle, hogs, whatever, chickens, goats. Of course, where I live on Carter Drive is just about 2 blocks from an area that has been farmed until just the last couple of years. I had no objection to people growing corn or beans there, and you know, everything's fine. Just still will be on much of the property that's in this area. But one of the, he asked, what are the, how's it going to help you? Well, 2 or 3 different ways. It will keep a confinement chicken house from moving in next door to you with 10,000 chickens or something. And that has happened over like at Marion, Kentucky, right outside the city limits. They came in with the chicken farms, and then the smell came, and then the lawsuits, and lots of problems. So that's what it protects you from. It will also protect you from the problems like the subdivision just north of the Metropolis along the lane, what's the name of it? Cedar Lane. There you ask those people if they needed protection. Well, they did, and they didn't get it. They had someone come in, build the houses, build the streets, water and sewer line. It was not done properly. That person's gone. Now they're in trouble because they're having to beg to get water from the city. They're begging the county to repair the roads. And whenever that water lines and sewer lines go bad, there's nobody to fix it, no money to fix it. So now they've got to look to somebody else to solve that problem.
The problem with that is Southern Seven
Southern
Department
Seven
didn't do
okayed
their
it.
job.
Well,
Southern Seven okayed it.
but talk to
Right.
talk to the county commissioners
Right?
about that.
I know they did.
Yeah.
Southern
But
Seven okayed it.
if that had been under this ordinance, the developer would have had to come in and propose to the city, here's how we're going to build our streets and water lines and sewer lines. And if they didn't do it properly, they could have been told no.
What was Southern Seven's job?
Well, maybe so. There are several people that didn't do their jobs on that subdivision. You can bet on that. And it got by, and now there's a problem. But you talk about, well, you're going to do it and pass this exactly like it's written. Well, I've seen several things tonight that I think are good suggestions that need to be changed in the ordinance. But as far as the basics of the 1.5 miles, maybe it needs to be smaller. But we need the city needs something outside the city limits, the land that in 5, 10, 20 years is going to be part of the city, is developed. Now, it to be part of the city if the people want it to be. That's what.
Mr. Wills, let me ask you
The
this.
city cannot just go out there and annex unless people want it.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Wills.
I'll try.
Article 11, which covers agricultural district, which is the area surrounding the city limits. Section 2, lot and building requirements. It clearly states I repeat, every agricultural or residential unit erected in the A district, it doesn't say future building, past building, it says every unit erected in the A district shall conform to the following requirements. So if you're not conforming currently, how does that affect you?
You'll be grandfathered in.
Nowhere in this does it say anything about
Well,
grandfather.
every building erected is erected under this ordinance, not erected 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
It doesn't state that either.
Well,
It's open to interpretation.
you talk to the lawyers about that. I can't answer those kind of questions. But this is talking about future development. And you only have to pay fees if you're going to do future development. If you've got 10 acres and you want to develop a subdivision, then you have to pay the fees. You'll have to come up here and address the others. But what I want to reassure you is the people on the Plan Commission and the Zoning Commission had no plans for this to be a money grab, because all these fees only apply in very, very small, specific areas.
That's my question. It says, the first sentence, the very first sentence says, this document is applicable to land situated within the limits of the city and contiguous territory not more than 1.5 miles. The very first sentence says it's applicable to this document.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the question about that?
I think what she's saying is it's the entirety of the document, not bits and pieces. It's the whole thing, the way it reads.
Well, I can certainly understand the feeling of not in my backyard, don't mess with me, leave me alone, and that's fine until something like Cedar Lane goes, or a chicken farm comes in. Hang on a second. I'm trying to.
No, Clyde has the lectern.
These are my comments. I encourage you to stay around, look at the maps, see what questions you have, and they'll be back here tomorrow, and you can write in and get questions answered, if at all possible. You know, like your question about who from Fort Massac asked that they be brought in. Well, I don't remember. It's been years ago, but Fort Massac had to cooperate, had to be involved, and they didn't. If they had said no, then it would not have gone any further. Now, those are my comments, and
Sir, I got a question.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
All right.
Okay. You keep bringing Cedar Lane up.
Yes.
I live real close to Cedar Lane. Back to Dennis, I was the first person in that area ever to build a house. Ever. Okay? Is the people in Cedar Lane asked for this? Have they?
No, not
Yes or no?
No.
Okay, that's what I thought. Quit bringing them up.
Well, it's a perfect example of something that could have been prevented had the county or the Southern Seven Health or somebody
Southern
followed
Seven
through.
prevented it. They didn't, did they, sir?
Thank you.
Thank you, Clyde.
That's a government agency, I believe.
Just to take a moment to build on Clyde's comments, my intention, the intention of everyone on the commission, was to put together a document to make it clear to home buyers, those who live in and around Metropolis, how land would be used, when site plans would be required, and to do so for the benefit of current homeowners and future homeowners. I can appreciate your concerns. I completely agree with Clyde that we've heard good comments tonight that we want to take into account. Reasonable people can disagree about complex matters. Where I am disappointed is the assumption that I, or Clyde, or others on the commission had any kind of negative intention in the work that we've done in this document. I'm paid nothing. I have plenty of hours devoted to a job outside of this activity, and the purpose of my involvement in this work is to help develop a document for the future growth of Metropolis and the positive growth of Metropolis and the surrounding area. If you're concerned about the zoning map, if you're concerned about elements of the manual, the ordinance, I fully appreciate that, and we have heard good comments tonight. But I assure you, there has not been a financially driven motivation for me or anyone that I've worked with on this. And the most disappointing aspect of this evening for me is that unfounded assumption. but I do appreciate the comments that you've made, and you have given us good feedback to consider as we review the document. Are there any questions on matters that have not already been discussed? You're next. You're already at the lectern, please.
The question that I have is the people who fall into zoning, now at what point is this going to affect the utilities actually? Once this becomes owned by the city of Metropolis, is the city of Metropolis going to have the right to dictate that you are now on city electric versus Ameren, Southern 7? Because I know when you guys annexed Bullock Lane, I didn't ask for it. I knew everybody up and down through there. None of the people who lived there asked for it. But my bill when it went from Ameren to the city of Metropolis, it jumped almost $140 a month. I left that house, sold it. Now back on Ameren, and my electric is a lot cheaper. So that's one thing I want to ask, is this leaving it open for anybody in that area to have utilities produced or supplied by the city? My name is Curtis Collins.
Curtis, I can answer that. No. And first off, let me clear up a couple things. The city didn't annex Bullock or Fawn, okay? The right to put the utilities there, though, was acquired from Ameren. The city bought it from Ameren, okay? Just like you'd buy, a franchise or something. We bought that from Ameren. Now, the city, inside the city limits, the city does have preferential rights on delivering utilities. Okay, that's only inside the city limits. Outside the city limits, no. So that doesn't change just because you got extraterritorial jurisdiction. You're still outside the city limits? No. The only reason we did on Fawn and Bullock is because Ameren sold that to the city, okay?
So the city limits will not extend where they rezone.
No, sir.
So our city limits right here at the edge of town, and in the zone when you guys extend to it, isn't becoming part of the city eventually?
No, sir. No, sir. Not unless somebody says, I want to annex, then their property becomes part inside the city limits. But all that ETJ, it's still the county. It doesn't change. In the boundaries that they've showed on these maps that are the city limits, they're still the same.
Okay, now that goes to the next question. If the city now is zoned and, the board, whoever they have, is the one who decides all this, at what point does the people who are in this area have the right to vote within the city of Metropolis for the decisions that the city makes? If they have to pay fees and stuff to the city, will these people be able to vote within the city if you have to pay fees to the city?
The answer is legally you have to be a city resident to vote in the city, okay?
But if we have to pay fees to the city because we've been zoned that way, and our county commissioners essentially don't have the oversee of the county area, where are we at? We don't have county commissioners that can stand up for us. We should have the right to vote somewhere for what affects our property. And by that point, the city is regulating because we're zoned by the city. We should have the right to vote within the city limits.
Well, the city doesn't have any authority to give you the right to vote, okay? Now, representation or whatever, that's an issue that they've heard tonight. I assume that's something they'll take up and think about. I want to clarify, too, one of the things this zoning commission, all these folks have been sitting on the front row and some of them up here, every time they have a meeting, they sit down and they take this document and they start picking it apart. And everybody brings questions and everybody brings thoughts and comments. It's changed, I can't tell you how many times in 2 years. And then sometimes it gets sent back over to the city council, and the city council looks at it for a while, and then they send it back to them. And that process is not ending tonight, it's just continuing. They just had to get to a point where they had some kind of document they could say, okay, here it is, you all tell us what you think about it. And that's what you're doing tonight. The process of an open meeting like this is tomorrow. When Mr. Stratmeyer says there's more open meetings, anytime they call a meeting, it's just like a city council meeting. They put an agenda out there, they post it, they give it to the media, they put it on the website, and so what I think what I would anticipate they'll do, like they've done in the past, they'll take the comments you got and you've made, and they'll go back and they'll look at the various parts of the document and see, well, how does that work in here? Is there some better way to word this? They've already done some of this. Earlier this week, and not everybody was aware of this, city representatives met with representatives of the Farm Bureau, okay, and actually listened to the Farm Bureau and took comments. Farm Bureau probably being aligned with a lot of your interests also. And there's already been discussions among zoning commission members about things they may want to change that have been brought up by the Farm Bureau. So it does happen. So every time they have a meeting, it's open. They usually hold them up at the city council chambers in the evening. They'll make it public when they're happening. You can come watch them talk about this stuff. That's open. That's not done closed. You can come listen to them talk about it. People have before.
Mr. Engel, I would question that. How in the world could you think that the people living in the county, if they see a notice for a zoning hearing for the city of Metropolis, how many of you think that they would think that that zoning for the city is going to be affecting them out in the county? Most of them would not attend that meeting because they're under the assumption that it's for the city. Correct?
Well, that appears to be one matter we've cleared up this evening. And we've discussed the ETJ, you're aware of it, and you understand that all meetings in the future, as they have been in the past, will be posted. Yes?
One question, this ETJ, the area that's outside the city limits, but within that red line on that map, will the Metropolis City Police have the authority to go into the ETJ and issue citations? Who enforces these zoning regulations when I disobey them?
Zoning administrator.
And that's appointed by the city, correct? Correct.
It's a higher position.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, before I leave, I'd like to express my opposition to this plan as someone who lives in the ETJ, and I frankly don't want it. I don't want your protection. I don't want your regulation. Get out of my town.
Adam Locke, 2863 Parker Drive. I've just been listening to everybody's discussion this evening. The premise of it, basically you're saying, is not for revenue gain. It is not for a money grab, a land grab, so to speak. The people have said what they want to say. You say you want to protect them. They do not want to be protected, okay? I know you don't want to answer any questions this evening. I understand that. So a question you need to take home tonight and ask all yourselves, then why do it?
Paul Cram, 10 Bullock Lane. I will be a part of your ETJ. If this is a city problem to protect the city, and this proposal should have been, no, I say now, it is to cover the mistake that the city made when the pony came. This is to prevent pony 2, pony 3. You call it chicken farm. We know what it is. If you zone around and call it the ETJ because it's available by city, by state ordinance, then you have covered what could future come into the city. I'm already here. I don't need covering. I'm in the county. I don't plan on putting the pony or a horse in my backyard. Neither do I want you telling me what I can and cannot do in my backyard. Therefore, I too stand in opposition to your ordinance, or you're wanting to impose this ordinance. To extend it this far out doesn't make a lot of logical sense, except you're extending the size of the city for future purposes. Right now, we're dealing with the right man. Mr. Long spoke of, our setting back and doing nothing. Well, when we entrusted the city council to take care of the city's business, apparently there was a failure. Someone much smarter, much savvier than we who live in the county came in and decided that they could, and they did legally, establish their pony. Now, if this is to keep a pony 2 from coming into the city, then make it a city ordinance, not a county. It doesn't affect us. The county commissioners should be able to take care of what wants to come into the county. Stop it in the city legally. Don't drag us into your fight. We don't want to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quentin Hilbrand again. I got 3 points here I want to address. Mr. Wills, and he's talking about his chicken farm. I'll bet you $10 that city asked that chicken farm to come in there. They just didn't know how bad it was going to stink when it got there. Probably, okay. Now, this little old section right over here that you pointed out earlier to the fellow that happens to be my neighbor. I mean, almost a rock throw from my house, and it affects 4 or 5 other people in here, in my neighborhood. The man said, look, have enough. Anyway, we want to be exempt from it too. I mean, you told him a while ago, you look into exempting him from that. I want to be exempt from it. I live right there across the road from him, in that little area right over there. So if he's going to take a look at his exemption, I'm going to take a look at my exemption. You know the one that goes across his property? You said a while ago. He got the little house right on that corner. Well, I just live right on Stone storefront, but I want to be exempt. Exempt me from that too. And I oppose this myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any comments covering points that we have not already discussed this evening?
What are you doing here?
Anything else?
I've got a couple questions that I failed to ask a while ago. I know the city is trying to progress and move ahead. I know and I understand that they've got to update things from 1964 in order to do that. Is there anything right now that's in the works that if this isn't done, that it's going to take away from Massac County? Well, we may not get. Is there something that we may be getting where the whole county is going to benefit by it? Is there any particular, I know there's a lot of things out there they're trying to get, but is there anything right now, let's say, that's being held up from happening unless this is taken care of?
The benefit is the planned development of the community. As Clyde offered some examples, what's happened on what I've seen referred to as the urban fringe or perimeter of the city. That's the benefit. The alternative is to leave in place if this doesn't eventually move forward in some fashion. The alternative is to leave in place what we have in 1964 with its dated and limited coverage.
Now this area, this mile-and-a-half area out here, now people that live in a county, if they so desire, let's say they're raising livestock, which I'm not, but they're raising livestock, and they need to drill a new well. You're not allowed to drill a well in the city limits, Will they have jurisdiction to be able to tell somebody in that area, yeah, your well's gone bad, but no, you're going to have to hook onto the county water, or you're going to hook onto the city water? Are they going to be able to keep people from drilling wells on their property if they need the extra water? Okay. Now, a few months ago, it was in the paper that there might be a steel mill coming to southern Illinois. I don't know if that's still up in the air or not. It said that there's 2 locations, that it's narrowed down to 2 locations now, Mount Vernon and Metropolis, Illinois. Are any of you aware of any of that? Is that still in the works, or is it going stale, or are we still, or do we look like we're in better shape of getting it than Mount Vernon? Or?
This is a zoning discussion, sir.
Well, this is going to matter to zoning because you was talking about keeping industry out. If that steel mill was to come to this area, they did announce that they needed the Canadian Railroad. Well, part of this property that you got circled around here, the Canadian Railroad happens to run through that. And if they decide to put a steel mill here that might hire 200 or 300 people, can the city step in and tell them farmers or people who owns that land out there, no, you can't sell this land to that steel mill because we don't want a steel mill by us?
We're in Metropolis.
The answer would be no. We actively have been pursuing this.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to find out.
No, and there's nothing about the ETJ that would cause the city to want to tell somebody, no, they couldn't sell to the steel mill. Absolutely not, no.
Well, if the city decided that they wanted it farther out, away from the city, then it's right there. If they say, no, we don't want it in this green area, but you can go farther out, well, the people that are in that green area there, won't that knock them out of a chance to sell to that steel mill if they decide they want to be there?
I think I can pretty well assure you that I don't, knowing the city council and the zoning commission, if somebody wants to put a steel mill with 300 jobs that close, I don't think they're going to have an objection to it. I mean, if it's in that ETJ up there, I don't know where they want to be exactly.
Well, my question is though, and I'm all for what you guys do, and things have got to be updated. But what my question is, will the city have the power to say, no, you're not putting it there? If they get that mile and a half, and will the city say, no, we don't want it there, but if you put it over here, it's okay? You know, I mean, am I making my question?
Take 2 words, just say 1, 2. Yes or no? It's easy.
I think, and we just conferred about this, the process, if somebody did want to do that, and it wasn't zoned for a steel mill, normally what happens is, the steel mill comes in, they pay all the fees and ask the city to rezone. It's up to elected officials what they would do, but, I mean, it's hard to fathom that they would say no.
Okay, but my question is,
Could they? I mean,
do they have the power to say, no, we don't want that here. We want you to put it farther out. And the people that own that land there, if they had a chance to, sell their land and make very good money off of it, could the city have the power to tell them no?
I guess conceivably they could, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on new topics, comments on new topics?
My name is Roy Georger. I live at 5709 New Columbia Road, but I do have some property on it. Several years ago, the Congress of the United States very carefully crafted a bill never mentioning the word taxes. We call it Obamacare. But there were many penalties, fees, assessments in that bill. But again, they weren't called taxes. Within the last year, the Supreme Court said, yes, they are taxes. My question is, how are these fees exempt from the ruling that in the congressional bill was considered fees, but the Supreme Court considered taxes? And if there are taxes, how does the city have authority to levy taxes outside the city limits? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any new comments?
You know the way home? You know the way home? Go home.
Hello, I'm Brian Bunning. I live at 3020 North Avenue. And my question for the committee is, can the zoning on a piece of property be changed without the property owner's consent?
restate that question? We couldn't hear you. Can you feel louder?
I apologize. My question was for the commission, can the zoning on a piece of property be changed without the property owner's consent?
Good question. You know, we talked about this some yesterday. We've talked about it some more. In this instance where it's being zoned for the first time, I guess you could say yes, because it's going to be set by an ordinance, okay? After that, and I think that's what you were alluding to yesterday and tonight, is could somebody come in and just say, I'm going to rezone Mr. Bunning's property that doesn't own that property? The answer there is no. You have to have an interest in the property to be able to rezone the property. That's our understanding.
Okay, so the owner would have to consent to any zoning changes? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments?
Jeff Weber, and I promise it's the last time tonight. I would like to thank the folks who sit on this board. It takes a special kind of person, maybe a lunatic, to get involved in politics or sit on board. And appreciate your time. And if I personally, as a county commissioner, can be of any input to you on the board, feel free to contact me. And I think I can speak for the other two commissioners, Mr. Childers and Mr. Farmer. You can contact them as well. And I would even go to say that we can meet with you, probably all three of us at the same time. That's going way out on a limb, but I'll go out on that limb if it will help us progress. Everything I've said here tonight is wearing the county commissioner title. I apologize to the gentleman before. I'm hoping that he did not take anything, what I said, as a personal attack, or anybody else on the board that I was personally attacking them. And I don't believe anybody here is anti-progress for either the city of Metropolis or the residents of the county as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional comments?
Robert Fick again. As I listen to these proceedings, I have not once heard you say that you might reconsider this. It seems like that you're just determined to do this, to have your way. And it looks like the opposition is pretty strong. In fact, it may be extremely strong. There's probably many, many more people in this area who object to this who are not here tonight. I personally think that you didn't do the best job of advertising it. Tonight, for the first time, I heard on TV 55 minutes before the meeting. When I received the card that I received, I thought it only pertained to the city of Metropolis. I looked in the county paper. I saw nothing in the county paper in regard to it. I think you people better wake up and smell the coffee here. The people obviously do not want it, and you are not saying that you will reconsider. Now, why is it that you have to drive this down our throats? Just what is it that makes you all that special? We want progress too, but we don't want you all interfering with our progress. Each one of us has property, and we want to do what would help us the most, or what would benefit us the most on our property. If I want to build something, I shouldn't have to ask you to do it. And whatever I want to do, as long as it's legal, you all don't have any right to judge or to assess me or to ask me to come in and get a variance or whatever. You have no right to do that. You're just overreaching. And not by a little, by a lot. If those communities in Illinois are not doing this, I wonder why. If only a few are doing it, why is it that Metropolis has to do it? What is it special about Metropolis that requires us to have this? If the other communities pretty much do not want it, maybe there's a good reason.
I can't speak for all members of the commission, but my motivation was, since I live in the city of Metropolis, to help update an old agreement so that the development of city property and surrounding property could be managed in a productive fashion. I have not stated, nor do I think anyone on the commission has stated, that their intention is simply to go forward. This meeting is to provide feedback that we can take into account and further develop, revise, modify the document. That's the purpose of this evening's meeting. Nobody's called this final. We appreciate your feedback. I think there have been a lot of good ideas shared. And again, to reiterate a point from earlier, I understand concerns on this matter. I would like to keep the exchange positive, and there is no basis for claiming that anybody on this commission or at this table with me is engaged in anything dishonorable. We're attempting to take a technical document related to development of property and update it. That's a complicated, complex matter that affects people in ways that we can't always fully predict. That's why we have these meetings and get this feedback. So I appreciate all of the positive comments, and I assure you that I, nor anyone else who I've worked with, we have not had any intention other than to try to improve a document fundamental to the development of property in Metropolis. Are there any additional questions? Yes.
With the financial situation that the city and county both are in, why would you even want to take on the extra responsibility of managing this green area, whatever you call it? But you've got enough to do to take care of the city, and the county's got all they can say grow solely.
Thank you for your comment.
My name is Robert Fitch, and I live at 407 Unionville Road, but I have property in the city of Metropolis and property in the green area. I feel like that you should consider a subdivision or a entity that wants to be annexed into the city in your zoning ordinance, and leave the rest of the county that doesn't want to be included in the city of Metropolis zoning alone. And that's my feeling. And I think I speak for most of the people that are here.
Thank you. Any new comments? This meeting is recessed until 10 a.m. Friday, December 21. I do thank you for your feedback. The commission thanks you for your feedback. We look forward to further discussions.
Yes, we go home.